Whether you just got your first jumping jack trailer or you're looking for a refresher, in this video we're going to run you through setup, takedown, and basic maintenance. First thing you're going to do after unhooking from the vehicle is to set your rear jack. In order to do this, reach under the trailer, grab onto that jack, pull it towards the front of the trailer. It will swing down and lock into place. Now, depress the lever and let the foot drop to the ground. We'll then come to the front of the trailer and crank up on this front jack until the trailer is level and we have pressure on that rear jack. Once we have our jack set and the trailer is level, we will undo the wing knobs by unclipping the carabiner and loosening the knobs. I find it easiest if we get this front gate out of the way by pulling the pin and just leaning it up against your hip so it's out of the way. Gives you a little bit more space to get your hands in and untwist these wing knobs. Once I have the wing knobs out, I like to place them in the holes in the front of the trailer for safekeeping. Next, we're gonna open the wings of the trailer. And especially on some of the larger models, I find it easiest to do it from the front of the trailer because we can step up on the tongue and use that for leverage. Key, you wanna get in the middle of the wings, grab onto the rail, just lift up and over and let them down into place. Then we're gonna open up our tailgate. Just remove the two pins on either side. Lower your tailgate into place. I like to just take these pins and replace them, again for safekeeping so I don't lose them. After this, we're ready to set up the tent.
So next, we're going to want to unzip our tent bag. To do this, we're simply going to lift this flap and the flaps that are Velcroed down the side of the bag to reveal our zipper. We're going to simply take that zipper lanyard and unzip the bag all the way to the front corners of the trailer. Using the lanyard that's on the zipper, repeat your process on this side of the bag. Our next step is to roll our bag. Inside this front flap of your bag, there's going to be a protective plastic piece. You can use that as a gauge to how tight you need to roll this bag. So once I've got the bag rolled 2 to 3 times, I find it easiest to come to the front of the trailer. These side flaps, the more organized you keep them, the better that bag's going to roll up. Now I'm going to take the bag and I'm going to pull it towards me, allowing me to grab where I've already rolled and continue rolling that bag towards me. Once we've got our bag rolled to the front of the trailer, we can simply then let the bag rest down over the front of the trailer, staying nice and tight and out of the way. Next, we're going to unfold our tent. Simply grab this top piece of the tent, fold it back out over the wing, come to the other side, unfold once. The roof of our tent gets unfolded next. Back to this side, unfold the other part of the roof, and now we're ready to put our tent up. Now we're going to set up our tent. Now this process is the same whether you have an 8-foot tent or the 12-foot tent. If you have a trailer that doesn't have a deck like the one I'm on now, this process will just be done off the tailgate. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift here, and you'll notice I have a foam block. You'll want to keep this handy. This will be used when we take the tent back down. So I'm going to pull up and back towards my chest. I want to come towards the back of the trailer as far as possible. Then I'm going to put pressure down and back towards me to get the front of the tent to jump up. Then I'll walk the tent forward and finish putting up the door side of my tent. Our next step is to strap the tent to the trailer. I'm going to grab my handle here It's easiest if you start in the middle. That makes it a little more even. We want to get this seam between our vinyl and our canvas over the edge of the wing. By that, we're going to pull down on the handle, keeping some pressure on it, reach underneath, latch, and then, like I said, make sure that seam is down over the edge of the wing. Now, it's crucial to have this seam over the edge of our wing. The reason for that is it allows proper watershed off of the tent to reduce any chance of pooling if you do get caught in a rainstorm. Once we're finished strapping this side of the trailer, we will repeat this strapping process on the other side. We also want to strap our front flap down. Simply undo the buckle here, run it around the tongue of the trailer, clip it back in. You'll have one on each side. Once the strap are buckled, they don't need to be super tight, just enough to keep this from flapping in the wind. This flap is designed to keep any water that's running off of the tent out of your bag and keep your bag clean and dry.
Now that we have our tent all set up, let's go ahead and set up the inside. Before we do that, let's talk about the items that come standard with each trailer. The inside of your tent is going to have a step stool, a canvas bag which contains 4 legs to turn the front gate of your trailer into a freestanding camp table, a box that has an accessory adapter which will be used with some of our optional accessories, and it also has a set of written instructions inside. And then we have our safety bars. The safety bars come in a set, and they are used on the exterior of the trailer when loading an ATV or a side-by-side. The last item that comes standard with each trailer is the 2 single beds on the inside with 1 half bed extension. There is the option to add 3 additional half bed extensions to create double beds or benches at the table, which this one in particular is set up that way. If you notice in here, the beds are set up in a particular way. We will discuss this more in detail when we go ahead and tear the tent back down. As you can see right here, I've got 2 additional half bed extensions. So let's go ahead and set up this side. Let's get the half beds out of our way so that we can set up first the main portion of the bedding. Each bed comes with a Velcro strip so that you can Velcro one to the other, eliminating any cracks in the bedding. Once we have that main portion set up, we're going to go ahead and install our half bed extensions. As you can see here, you've got the slots in the vinyl that will guide you and give you the correct spot to put those bed extensions. One thing to note is the trailer on the exterior has the hinge points and other possible wear points. So you want to avoid those when installing those half bed extensions. So what I like to do before I take that extension and insert it into its slots, I check and see physically where each of those hinge points is, avoiding them when I go ahead and put this in. Now, there's obviously a top and a bottom. The brackets are the bottom of the half bed, and it is important that this tab here on the bottom of the half bed goes outside of the trailer. So we're gonna insert it through the slots, push forward on that half bed until that tab is outside of the trailer, and then we can drop that into its flat position. The beds are designed to be spaced off of the wall slightly. So the bed extensions themselves would be the proper placement for those beds. So we're gonna go ahead and flip those up, pull that bedding out, and then we can just line that edge up flush with those bed extensions. And we'll repeat that on the other side. We can now latch the table on the back wall by simply lifting up, rotating it, and latching it on its plastic latch. If we want to get this out of our way for any other situations, such as somebody sleeping on the floor or something like that, we can simply unlatch that table and we can lean it up against that back wall, seeing as it does have the springs that will hold it in that position. One other major thing that we can do with those half bed extensions is create a bench at the table. So let's go ahead and do that. Each bed extension comes with the framework and the padding. If we have the optional 4 total half bed extensions, we can create benches on both sides. The way we're going to do that is take the other framework and we're going to insert this triangle into the back of the other triangle on the bed extension that is already inserted into the bed position. It is important that the bottom of the half bed is the back. So we're going to take that, insert it into that triangle there, and then you're going to take that padding, and now you've got your benches at the table. Let's show you how to properly put away all of the interior items in your jumping jack trailer. The first step is to swing the table down to the ground. In order to do that, we just need to release the latch on the back wall by pressing in on that plastic latch. As that swings up, we can drop that to the ground, and then we can begin with any of our bedding. Remove your half beds and begin with the main bedding here. I personally like to take that Velcro and re-Velcro it back to itself so that it's not catching on the carpet and pulling that carpet up next time I go and set my tent up. The next step on putting the bedding away is very crucial and important. The reason why there are 2 different beds here on this main portion of bedding is simply the fact of how we're going to hold that bag up in the proper shape. So we're going to take this skinnier pad and it'll go down first. It stays up vertical so that when everything gets zipped up, that zipper on the exterior of our bag is held at the highest point possible. This is also going to give that bag some structure, and it also allows us to put more of our personal items in here, such as sleeping bags, pillows, camp chairs, any of those other things that you want to be able to fit in here as well. If you set this up properly, it's going to give you more space. So now let's go ahead and take that fat bed there and lay it on the ground and push it up next to the skinny pad that is on the vertical end. When these beds are in position, this is then where we will put those half bed extensions. We like to take that framework and be able to sandwich it in between the 2 pieces of padding. So we're going to lay both of those out, and you can configure this a little bit differently depending on what kind of items you're going to have inside. We just want to keep things at the most flat that they can possibly be and not going higher than that vertical bed to keep any wear and tear when we actually close that trailer up. So now let's go ahead and get the other side done. When putting those half bed frames down, we like to keep the bottom of the frame to the padding of the bed rather than the other way around, just to avoid damaging the bedboard inside of there, the hard piece that gives rigidity to that bedding. The other thing that we want to note is the triangle. We like to point those to the center of the trailer rather than having that the other direction and causing wear on that bed piece. Now, as a quick side note, those half bed extensions could be double stacked, again, just based off of any of our other personal items that we're going to put in here. So I can take those over here and just do a second sandwich with those half bed frames. And this is still low enough to be able to pack everything away. On a quick note, we do need to leave a gap behind the bedding for the hinges when we fold everything up. The hinges of the actual rod of the tent need a place to fold. So if this bedding is pushed all the way to the back, there will be nowhere for those to go, causing wear points. So we do want to keep that bedding spaced 3 to 4 inches away from the back of that trailer.
Now that the interior of your tent is all put away, we're going to take our tent down. Our first step is to unstrap all of those side straps around the tent. Also, the flap on the front of our tent. Simply reach under, find the strap, push on it with your thumb, and unclip. Now that we have the interior of our tent set down and taken care of, we're going to put our tent down. My first step is to put pressure on this front hinge point. I'm going to use the palm of my hand. That'll keep anything from getting pinched, because I'm going to push this in. Then with my other hand, I'm going to slide the slide lock up, take the pressure off. Then I'm going to walk into the tent. I'm going to grab the front support of my tent. I'm going to put one hand just below the shock mount and one hand just below the hinge. I'm going to pull on the hinge and push just below the shock mount. I'm going to reach up and grab the top truss, gently set the front of that tent down. Then you can either stay inside the tent or step out, but you just want to get this hinge collapsed the rest of the way in. Reach up, grab the top of your tent, and gently set it down. At this point, now that our tent is down, we're going to replace our foam blocks. The reason for this foam block is to prevent any unnecessary wear and tear between the top part of your frame and the bottom part of your frame. This foam block is going to stay on the outside of the tent and sit just on this center piece of canvas. You will also have a piece of foam just like this in the front of the tent. Now that our tent is down, it is crucial that the front flap on our tent gets put away correctly. We want to lift the roof of our tent high enough that we can fold this flap in out of the way of any of our hinge material when the tent is down. This also allows us to make sure that our front foam block is in the correct position. Just like the rear block, we want to make sure it's on the outside of the tent, right in the middle of the tent, to prevent the top of your frame and the bottom of your frame ever coming in contact and creating unnecessary wear and tear on your canvas. Before we start to fold our tent back up, we want to make sure that space we left inside the tent between the front of our trailer and the front of those half beds gives enough room for our hinge to collapse down and not be impeded by anything else. With our tent down, now we're ready to fold. It doesn't necessarily matter which side you start on, it's more important the order that we go. We want to fold fiberglass rod first, fiberglass rod second. Now we want to stay on the same side that we've just folded and do additional canvas, then to the other side, additional canvas. Then we're going to go through the tent and make sure we don't have any high spots and smooth everything out, and then we'll zip our bag. Before we zip our bag, we want to double check all 4 hinges are clear of any canvas or any other material. Now that our tent is folded, we're going to zip it back into the bag. Simply unroll your bag and zip your bag closed. We want to make sure the zipper on our bag is always the high point of our bag. This is done by making sure our cushions are put away correctly on the inside. That allows this to be the high point, so if you do get water on the bag, it settles out here rather than on the zipper. Now that our bag is zipped closed, we want to fold these flaps back over the top of the zipper to keep any water or dirt from getting into the zipper.
Now that the tent's all zipped up into the weatherproof bag, we will close up the trailer. We'll remove the pins where we stored them, fold up the tailgate, and pin it back into place. We'll then fold the wings of the trailer up and over the top. Again, with the larger models, I find it easiest if we're all the way out on the edge, and feel free to step up on the tongue to let the wing down slowly. We will then replace the wing knobs, remove them from the holes in the front of the trailer where we stored them. Again, I find it easiest if we get the front gate out of the way. Just unpin it, rest it on your hip. Tighten the wing knobs in. These don't need to be super tight, just snug, and then clip the lanyard anywhere onto the expanded metal. Now we will release some of the pressure we have on that rear jack by lowering the tongue of the trailer. The rear jack, we just push down on the lever, slide the foot up as far as it can, pull down, and swing this jack up out of the way. You want to make sure you physically hear and feel it click into place to make sure it will not drop on you during travel. Now you're ready to hook your vehicle up to your trailer and go hit the trails. If you are putting it away for storage, now is the time. We would recommend either putting it in a garage or a covered storage place, or if it's going to be stored outside, throw our optional storage cover over the top of it, or just keep it covered with a tarp or anything similar to that.
Periodically, you may want to add a little bit of lubricant to the joints on your frame. This will help your jump up feature work better. Simply a little bit of lubricant, but be extremely careful not to get any overspray or drippage on your canvas, as those chemicals will damage the canvas. If you bought a brand new jumping jack, your canvas tent still has some shrinkage left in it. What that means is when it shrinks, it will actually tighten up and help seal the seams in the tent. This can be done by simply taking a broad sprayer on your garden hose and simply soaking the entire tent down to get it wet. Like I said, that will then help seal up your seams. There may be some slight dripping through those seams the first time you get it wet. That is completely normal, and that is on a brand new tent. You should, under normal circumstances, never have to waterproof your tent. The tent comes with a silicone-based waterproofing from the canvas manufacturer. That means this canvas, under normal circumstances, should never have to be treated with any other waterproofing chemical. In the event that you do have to put your tent down wet, that is fine. You can travel with a wet tent, just don't store it wet. If you do store it wet, that will cause mold and mildew to grow on the tent. Put it up as soon as possible and dry it out completely.
After the first couple 100 miles, there are a few things you're going to want to check. Check your air pressure in your tires, check the torque on your lug nuts, and check your wheel bearings. Check out our other YouTube videos to see more in depth on how to do that. After years of use on your jumping jack trailer, there is the potential where you will get some nicks and scratches in the powder coat. To fix that up, at the end of every season, I just take a light sandpaper, sand any of the rough spots, and then paint it with a textured Rust-Oleum black spray paint, and it matches very well. Inside of every new trailer, there is a piece, we call it the accessory adapter. This comes standard with every new trailer, and what this allows you to do is it allows you to hook up some of the optional accessories onto the outside of your trailer. It will be placed right here. If you purchase the optional cooler rack, it will hook onto the rail and use that accessory adapter for added support. The water rack will mount right on here as well. That allows you to throw our optional sink top in to form what we call the kitchenette. Now that we've gone over setup, takedown, and basic maintenance, for any more in-depth videos, make sure to check out our YouTube channel.